got it. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unity Center of West Linn. My name's Joanne Carruthers, and I'm your service assistant today. We bless and welcome each one of you today and always. In Unity, we believe each of us dwells in spirit, and each of us is here today by divine appointment. The Unity Center is a ministry where people of all ages, backgrounds, and beliefs celebrate the one common spiritual thread that lives in every heart. If you're new to the Unity Center of West Linn, we invite you to visit our website, www.worldhealing.org. Our guest speaker today is Reverend Christine Green of both Sacred Heart Ministries and the New Thought Center for Spiritual Living. And she will open us with a prayer.
Thank you, Joanne. Welcome, everyone. And so please join me as we anchor our time together in prayer. So just taking a breath, bringing your awareness to this very moment, to this sacred moment. And as we breathe, we remember that circulation of life, of reception and release. And so it is in this holy and sacred moment that I know and recognize that there is but one divine and sacred presence, one eternal source of all good, one creative expression of all life, that this life, this good, this presence is God. And God is that eternal knowingness, that eternal oneness, that eternal source, is love and light, freedom and peace. So I'm so grateful to know and recognize that this is the only power and presence moving in and through and as each one of us this day. I know we open our hearts and our minds as we come together in sacred community, knowing that we are here to be inspired, to be spiritually fed, and to be connected in community. How grateful I am to know this oneness, to know this revelation of good that is God. The freedom to worship together, the freedom to speak our truth, and the joy to be in community. So I give thanks for this opportunity, for this blessing, for the magic of technology that allows us to be together today. I'm so grateful for this and for so much more. And so I release this word with deep gratitude and love. And so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Christine. And our spiritual reading for today is from Pema Chodron, one of our favorites. We start with ourselves. In celebrating loving kindness, we train first to be honest, loving, and compassionate toward ourselves. Rather than nurturing self-denigration, we begin to cultivate a clear, seeing kindness. Sometimes we feel good and strong. Sometimes we feel inadequate and weak, but our loving kindness is unconditional. No matter how we feel, we can aspire to be happy. We can learn to act and think in ways that sow seeds of our future well-being, gradually becoming more aware of what causes happiness as well as what causes distress. Without loving kindness for ourselves, it is difficult, if not impossible, to genuinely feel it for others. And now we have a piece of music. So sit back and enjoy.
If all of life's a stage, then we must play our part. Lift your head up from the page and give a message from the heart. It's only in the light you see that you can become who you're meant to be. So step into the light and welcome home. I see joy upon your face, it makes our future bright. When each has found their place, then together we take flight. It's only in the light you see that you can become who you're meant to be. So step into the light and welcome home. Let's sing a song of peace. Let's sing a song of joy. Every woman, every man, every girl and every boy. If all of life's a stage, then we must play our part. Lift your head up from the page and give a message from the heart. It's only in the light you see that you can become who you're meant to be. So step into the light and welcome home. Sing a song of peace. Let's sing a song of joy. Every woman, every man, every girl and every boy. I see joy upon your face. It makes our future bright. When each has found their place, then together we take flight. It's only in the light you see that you can become who you're meant to be. So step into the light and welcome home. It's only in the light you see that you can become who you're meant to be. So step into the light and welcome home. Step into the light and welcome home.
Well, good morning again, and thank you. That was such a great song and a perfect quote for today. I'm going to talk about loving kindness. So we're all in tune today. We're all in harmony today. Just want to begin with acknowledging, after a long week, that we learned that we have a new president-elect. And I just want to congratulate President-elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for their win, and congratulate us for a new step forward. And my talk today is opening the heart to love, because of, regardless where we are on the spectrum, whether you voted for him or not, that what we have an opportunity to do is to step into something new and to step into a greater opening of the heart. And when we talk about that, it's that to look past the emotional heart as love and to look at the spiritual heart. And I love this quote from James O'Day, author of the Soul Awakening Prayer. He says, "The masters of spiritual wisdom tell us that the heart is a mirror of the infinite and that we must polish it with constant attention." I love that. It's a mirror, and it's up to us to polish it, to stay connected with spirit. And Cynthia Bourgeault, the author of The Wisdom Way of Knowing, has another quote. She says, "It is not the seat of our personal affective life or even our personal identity, but the heart is an organ for perception of the divine purpose and beauty. The heart is not for personal expression, but for divine perception. Not for personal expression, but for divine perception." And so both of those lead us to knowing and seeing that we have an opportunity to connect with the infinite, that the heart is that presence, that power of love is how we connect with the Spirit of God. And so we are the nurturers of the infinite heart of knowingness, goodness. And our purpose is to nurture our heart and to nurture that expression of love so that the soul can soar, so that we have love not just for ourselves, but for everyone who comes into our community. There's a great story about anthropologist Margaret Mead. And she was asked many years ago, what was the first sign of culture or civilization that was found? And there's an expectation that for her to talk about clay pots or tools or tools for hunting or new stones, you would think that would be the first thing. But it wasn't. The first evidence was a 15,000-year-old fractured femur bone. And the femur is the largest bone in the body. It connects the hip to the knee. And it was found at an archaeological site. And so when you have a fracture, without modern medicine, it takes 6 weeks of complete rest to heal. In the animal kingdom, if a bone is broken, the animal dies. There's no way for them to survive long enough for that to heal. And so a healed femur bone says that someone helped that fellow human, that someone carried them to safety and cared for them so that the bone could mend and heal. And so what she says is the beginning of civilization was the capacity for us to care for each other, to sacrifice for each other. And so that's where we have compassion of the heart, that when the heart is open, it is very tender. It feels like we can include everyone. We have compassion and empathy for each other and a caring for each other. Now, neuroscientists have experimented with the brain, and they've wired up the brain when there was this feeling of all-inclusive caring, when the heart is open and we feel like we're holding all of life. So there's 3 parts to the brain. The back is the reptilian survival part, the middle is the limbic or emotions, and the front is the cortex or thinking, right? So just a little science review. So what the neuroscientists found, what happens when there's this connectedness and oneness, that the prefrontal cortex lights up and there's integration through the whole brain. There's a harmonizing effect on the whole brain. But in contrast, when we feel angry and we feel like we want to hurt others, the frontal cortex quiets down and the survival part of the brain is activated and takes over. And so what happens is we feel fearful and separate. We feel every person for themselves. And sometimes it feels like our society is de-evolving, doesn't it? Especially this past year, and that there's cruelty. But we have an evolutionary story. And even though it looks like things aren't working in the way we want, that evolution involves swings, that there's always going to be an up and a down. And evolution takes generations. There was someone interviewed and asked about the trauma of racism. And they said it would take 9 generations to heal the trauma and the feelings of racism. And so it's that evolutionary journey that it's not, we may not see it, but we all play a part in it. In Sri Lanka, their leader proposed a 500-year peace plan. because he said it took hundreds of years to create the suffering of the Civil War. And it would take hundreds of years to cultivate the trust of understanding, to make the repairs, to create true belonging. And so the world we want to have is how we live today. And it's up to us. Everything that we do is making an impact on an energetic level, on a personal level, on a global level. So we are allowing that to happen. We are connected with that happening in our society. Society needs us and needs this work more than ever. And that when we are aware, we can sense what's going on inside of us, right? That's mindfulness. We can pause and arrive at the presence of the heart that allows us to act from wisdom and love. And so that's what our work is to develop that place of mindfulness so that we respond rather than react. And one more thing about the brain, I learned something new. There's something called the limbic hijack. And the limbic is the part that houses our emotions. And when it's suppressed, we can express it. There's three ways that we manage our emotions. We express them, sometimes good, sometimes not so good. We can suppress them, but what it does is it intensifies and prolongs our emotions, or we can regulate it and take charge. And this article that I read, there are many ways to regulate it. We can avoid the situation, we can change the subject or activity, or change the way we engage. We can look at it in a different light, and maybe practice distancing, looking at it being in the future and looking back. How would I see this from the future? I remember when I had an opportunity, the opportunity was given to me to go to teach a science of mind principles in Brazil. And I didn't travel. I didn't have a passport. I went to Tijuana once, and I went to Canada once, but I never traveled anywhere. And now I had this opportunity to go, and all of my fears came up, all of my limitations. And I did this exercise of imagining myself as in the future, in my 80s or 90s, and looking back at my life. And what would it feel like to say, I had an opportunity to go to Brazil, but I turned it down. And immediately I knew I was going. And so that when we're able to do that distancing, I wasn't in fear anymore. I was like, oh no, I'm going. This is something I'm going to do. And the other thing that we can do with emotions is control the intensity. That as the limbic ramps up, as our emotions ramp up, our thinking tends to shut down. So the more we can manage that relationship and be aware of that, the more empowered we are. Years ago, the Dalai Lama said that if every 8-year-old was taught mindfulness, there would be no more war. Isn't that amazing? And there are many places where children and teens are taught mindfulness, and that they find that there's more empathy, that there's greater connection, and they're more successful. And so it's been said that in the year 2042 is the year whites will become a minority. And so what happens is, with knowing that, all of the fear begins to happen. And so the fear creates hostility. And that's what we're beginning to see, because there's still an idea of separateness. There's still a belief that there's only so much to go around, and I have to protect mine. I have to keep what I have. and that there's not enough jobs, there's not enough money, there's not enough resources, where we know in our work that there's unlimited resources, there's unlimited ideas, there's unlimited, but the world hasn't caught up there yet. We're getting there, but the world hasn't caught up there. I love what John Pavlovitz, he's a spiritual activist and author, and he invites us to not buy into the limitation, but he says, get a bigger table. Get a bigger table and invite everyone to the table. Invite all of the viewpoints. Invite the different cultures, the different ways of thinking. And that's widening the circle, that we have different views. And so how do we hold that into our hearts? How do we open our hearts to allow that in? And again, it comes back to mindfulness. It comes back to our awareness of what we're thinking and how we are being mindful, how we are developing empathy. Brené Brown says, we are in a spiritual crisis, and the key to building a true belonging practice is to maintain a belief in our human condition. That condition, that spirit flows between us and every other human in the world, is not something that can be broken. However, the belief in our connection is constantly tested and repeatedly severed. And so, how amazing it is that we get to be in spiritual community together, that we get to know this truth. And our work is not just coming together on Sunday. Sunday is the icing on the cake. Sunday is the opportunity to come into community, to see the reflection of the light, to see the mirror reflecting the infinite in each other. But our work is every day. Our work is being kind at the grocery store, having patience with the driver that cuts us off, having empathy when we hear about others that are suffering, and doing our own work. Where am I having my button pushed? Where do I need to do some healing work there? How can I see maybe a family member that, and there's a lot of this going on, right? That doesn't see our point of view necessarily. So how can I have more empathy with them? How can I be centered and not caught off guard? That quote from Brené Brown is from a book called, where is it? I've just finished a class in it. It's called Braving the Wilderness. And it's an amazing book about how to be connected in this time where it's so easy to be separate. And so it's about how do we connect? And the wilderness is, we're in a wilderness of learning to speak up, of learning to stand our ground, of learning to say, that's not okay. It's not okay to talk to someone like that or treat someone like that when we see it happening. And she says that, and this was something that really hit the group hard, is that what we tend to do, what happens in society when there's fear, is we tend to dehumanize. And so we begin to judge them and give people characteristics that are not just unflattering, but inhuman. And the Nazis did this. And there's research shows what they did, what the names they called the Jews in the Jewish culture. And so so people didn't see them as people anymore. They saw them as objects. And that's when They were dehumanizing them. And what she explained is how easy that is to happen, how easy that we can fall into that, because we hear that from someone else. Am I back? Okay. We think that's okay. And what we want to do is find the sacredness, find the place where we're all connected, where we're all the same. We all want a better life for ourselves and for each other. No one wants to see suffering. And so what happened in the group is the group saw where they were using dehumanizing phrases and saying things about other people in other political parties, maybe, or anyone. It's so easy to get to that place. And so everyone in the group made a commitment. We're not going there anymore. It changed all of us in that moment. That if we don't want to be treated that way, if we don't want, because we heard things being said about people that we honor, about people in government that we honor, about leaders that we have, things were said, not nice things. So it's that, to pay attention to that and to not buy into that, but instead is to look at how can we build true belonging together. And it's maintaining this human connection, knowing that spirit is flowing through us. Spirit is the connection that we all have. And the reason there's so much discord going on is because we're getting closer. I know it's hard to think of it that way, but we're getting closer because the more discord there is, it's coming to the surface to be healed. Because all these years, there's been suppression. These ideas were suppressed. These behaviors were suppressed. We didn't want to talk about racism. We didn't want to look at it. That was somebody else's problem. It wasn't my problem as a white person. And so now we're seeing it, and now we're seeing none of this is okay. And so we're getting closer to that connection, because everything unlike love comes up to be healed. Because at the basis of all of life is love. And the heart opening to love is allowing ourselves to see this happening, and to see it and to bring it to the light so we can heal it. And we can each say, what is mine to do? How can I see this differently? Brene goes on to say, when there's a belief that there's something greater than us, something that's rooted in love and compassion, that we are less likely to retreat into our bunkers, to tolerate dehumanization, that we want to stay connected when we know that we're connected in compassion and love, and that there's a greater presence, there's a universal presence and power that's connecting us. She says that there's 3 things: to have a strong back, a soft front, and a wild heart. And a strong back is to stay grounded in principle and faith. And a soft front, to be vulnerable and open. That it's not weak to be vulnerable, but it's very brave. It's actually very, very brave. But what happens if we don't have a strong back, then we put up armor in the front. Do you see? So the strong back, when we're grounded in our values, in principle, in spiritual principle, and that we have that, we know that, then we can soften our front and be vulnerable. And she says to have a wild heart. And that's the ability to be tough and tender, to be excited and scared, to be brave and afraid, all at the same time. And that's what allows us to open our hearts, to be present to those around us, to speak up, to stand up, and to express love. I found this great poem, author is unknown. I sought my God I could not see. I sought my soul eluded me. I sought my brother, and I found all three. Because it's in our connection with each other, within our connection with God, that God is the presence that moves in and through and as each one of us. God is not separate, but it's our ability to be connected. Our soul, our goodness, our love is all connected. And the way we express it in the world is with each other. So our spiritual journey is always calling us to do our inner work. And I know Julie talked about that last week, that it's about looking at our blocks, looking at our beliefs, looking at what's keeping us separate, to have self-compassion, self-acceptance, to stop self-criticism. And when we can accept ourselves, we accept each other. We're more authentic and available to each other. And even though we're in this time of a pandemic and we can't be together in person, we're still connected. And our relationship and connection is so important. And whether it's with a phone call or through a Zoom call or passing by someone on the street, that's our connection with each other. And it's how we react in this time that is so important. This is our spiritual journey, how we're connecting with our community, our coworkers, our neighbors, our family and friends. We have an opportunity to see the world differently during this pandemic, during this time of transition, during a time of divisiveness. But this is our time for healing. And so Joanne read that quote, and that was my plan today, to share a loving kindness meditation so that we can engage in that. See, there's the connection. There's the one connection, Joanne. We can engage in that and be one with that. And so the loving kindness, I'll say it and you can repeat it to yourselves. And I invite you to say it out loud. You're muted, so you can say it out loud, because your heart needs to hear your voice. Your heart needs to hear words of truth. And so whenever you pray out loud, whenever you read scripture or spiritual readings out loud, your heart hears your voice. It's hearing that truth, and it needs to hear your own. So say this out loud, and we'll say it 3 times. First, we'll say it for ourselves, then for someone in your life that you're connected with that you want to say it for, and then we'll say it for all humanity. And so there's 4 phrases. And so again, you can repeat them after me. And so it's getting centered right where you are, taking a deep breath. I invite you to recall a time where you felt joy. Recall a time where you felt peace. Recall a time where you felt love. And so staying with those pictures and those feelings, we begin May I be happy. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be at peace. Take a breath. Allow that to enter in, to feel it, to connect with it. And now bring your awareness to someone in your life that you know needs a prayer right now, needs some loving kindness. Bring a vision of them in front of you. And as you do, we speak loving kindness to them. May you be happy. May you be safe. May you be well. May you be at peace. And take a breath. And now imagine all of humanity, that humanity everywhere, that people in all places, in all cultures, have a vision of our humanity as a global presence. And let's send them loving kindness. May you be happy. Oh, I'm sorry, one more. May all people be happy. May all people be safe. May all people be well. May all people be at peace. And take a breath. So it is in this holy and sacred moment that I give thanks for this opportunity to be in community together this day, to engage in loving kindness, to know that all of humanity is blessed, all of humanity is one with the infinite and the divine, and that as we open our hearts, we open to that perfect presence of love, knowing that we send out the presence of love, the feelings of love, the beams of love, of light, of freedom, of grace to all humanity. I know that everyone is blessed, no matter what religion they practice, no matter what faith they are in, no matter whether they are at a church or a temple or a mosque or a study group, that they are blessed this day, that presence of love flows out of our community together and flows out into humanity and into the world. And imagine seeing all churches, all mosques, all places of worship, sending out their light to all of humanity. And that light connects with each other. And it is this light, this love, this presence in which we open our hearts. We open to the presence and the power of love. And so I'm so grateful for this opportunity, so grateful for this knowingness, so grateful for this revelation of love, of light, of freedom, of grace. How good it is to know that God is the very breath, the very presence, the very life, right here and right now. And so I give grateful thanks for this opportunity, for this blessing, for this connection and love, giving all glory to God. I release this word with deep gratitude. And so it is. Amen. Thank you so much. It's a joy to be with you today.
Watching the world as she passes me, learning when she teaches, loving when she preaches love. preaches love. But you have been waiting and watching yourself in the mirror of doubt with a fear that is holding your heart. Let it out. Let it out. Songs have been written, and all the simple words are now gone, and all the love that I will be giving was given long before we were born. You lie awake waiting for answers, something that will open your eyes, but only when you open your heart will you find the only answers to life. And now it's up to you. Now it's up to you. There's nothing more I can do. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. I have been watching the world as she passes me, learning when she teaches, loving when she preaches love. Preaches love. While you have been waiting and watching yourself in a mirror of doubt and a fear that is holding your heart, let it out. Let it out. Now it's up to you. Now it's up to you. Sing it. Now it's up to you. Yeah, now it's up to you. There's nothing more I can do. There's nothing more I can do.
That was great. And that was thanks to Marilee Payne. When she heard Reverend Christine's talk title, she knew she had to come up with this song or share this song. It was composed and written by her old friend Paul Barkett and transferred from tape to digital for us by Alec Payne, Marilee's grandson. Thank you, Marilee and Alec and Paul. And Reverend Christine, thank you so much for that message. That was wonderful, especially at this time with everything that's going on politically and with the pandemic. And we know it's possible to heal the world, that we can all live in world in peace and love. It will come. Now, as we appreciate the message from today, it's time for our celebration, when we act on our faith with generosity and commitment. We take this opportunity to express our gratitude for the Unity Center of West Lynn and for the goodness, health, and abundance in our lives, and for our deep interconnection, which is the theme of Unity for November. We're grateful for all your gifts of finance, time, service, and for your love. We began this year with an intention of vision and a vision for our 30th year, and it's been a surprising year. This intention and vision is spirit-led. We're co-creating a vibrant, inclusive ministry, welcoming and supporting everyone on their spiritual journey. And together we bless your gifts and offerings, and we say, God's love in me blesses and multiplies all that I give, all that I receive. Thank you, God. Let's see. And after the service, everyone, please stick around. We're going to have fellowship for about 15 minutes with Reverend Christine. And we invite you to join us and bring your own coffee, however, can't supply that. And then following that, we're going to have a meeting we'd like everyone please to participate in, talking about the holiday service activity, Toy Day. We want to have everyone who purchases, donates toys and gifts, who volunteers, wraps, etc. We want everyone to join us for a discussion of what and how we create the event this year. It's going to have to be a little bit different. So we'll begin about 11:45 and discuss what we know and hear from everyone about how to adapt Toy Day to serve families in our communities this year. Everyone is welcome. There are lots of different ways to participate, and however we move forward, this is the time for planning. If you can't join the conversation today, please be in contact with Marilee or Sharon to find out how to participate. Also, licensed Unity teacher Sandra Combs is offering a study group class for everyone with an interest in health and healing. It's Myrtle Fillmore, one of Unity founders. She was healed from tuberculosis through her beliefs and deep spiritual study. Sandra's passionate about the book, Myrtle Fillmore's Healing Letters. You can get the book online or through a local bookstore. This virtual discussion course will be held for 5 weeks on Sundays after church on a donation basis. It starts November 15th from 12:30 to 2:30, and that's for 5 weeks. The information's in the newsletter. We encourage you to sign up by email with Sandra so she can send you the link, and you can also arrange to send her a donation by check or by contacting the center administrator, Unity Center Administrator Sharon McGrath. Please check our website and weekly e-news for contact information details of other center events. You can sign up on the website www.worldhealing.org if you're not already getting the e-news. Also, this week will be men's group meeting on Monday, and I'm sure Jim will send a link for that. And Tuesday will be women's group, and Olivia will send an invitation and contact for that. And we're gonna share some things and talk about compassion and spirit. As we close, we thank you, Reverend Christine, so much for your inspiring message, and encourage everyone to take on her assignments to open our hearts to love in all its forms. Let's look for interconnections in love in our lives in this extraordinary time. Let's step into the light and keep remembering that it's up to us to keep our hearts open. We also encourage you to invite those you care about to share our Sunday messages, available live or on YouTube under the title West Lynn Unity Center. Join us next Sunday for Reverend Julie Applegate. For further spiritual support, feel free to call Reverend Julie. Visit our website, worldhealing.org, find us on Facebook, or go to unity.org. For 24-hour prayer, call or visit silentunity.org. And again, please stay after this service for conversation, fellowship, and discussion about today's message and connection with our community. If you're here for the first time or relatively new, we look forward to getting to know you. And as we complete our formal time together, we're going to, as we complete our formal time together in our minds, we symbolically blow out our candles, but we know the light never goes out because we are the light. Please join me in your own home with the prayer of protection and transformation. The light of God is in us. The love of God moves through us. The power of God transforms us. The presence of God is who we are. Wherever we go, God is, and all is well. Thank you in advance for all your support and participation. You're very important to the Unity Center. Let's all reach out this week in the love and the spirit of unity. Have a safe, beautiful, and healing week. Love, peace, and blessings to each of you. And thank you for the gift of your presence. As we close, as we always do with the peace song, and we have another video treat. We think you'll love this. Get ready to rock out with the Oakland